Hey, welcome back everyone. It's time for us to have a look at the Durbanites FPL Game Week 10 preview. So let's start off with first game, Liverpool Everton. So Salah, say no more. At 75 points, he's the most prolific point scorer so far this season. If you can afford him, get him. Liverpool still have 3 good weeks ahead on paper. Not many injuries troubling them except for Robertson, who's out until the 21st of Jan. But you can look at Simikas to feature and swing in some left-sided corners. Everton have been battling it out with some wins along the way. I would not recommend anyone in the next few weeks. There are better choices. Now, let's look at the next one. So, Bournemouth and Wolves. So Bournemouth have a good chance this week for some points. Solanke is the top scorer with 39 so far, and Billings shows up with some assists. Neto is a good backup keeper choice for this week. Wolves are the surprise package this season, but Newcastle are not playing around either. Backing Neto and He-Chan if anyone to score. They are already both in the 40s this season. Now looking at the Brentford-Burnley game, Brentford bounced back from some slumber for a 3-0 dismantling of Burnley. Chelsea did well against Arsenal, so a bit of a toss-up on this week. With West Ham and Liverpool on the horizon, possibly look to bench transfer even Mbeumo and Wissa until the heat cools off. Burnley have had a chance to get some points for themselves, and managers that rely on them, Lyle Foster is still the pick of the crop. Now, looking at Man City, they got back to winning ways this week, but it went down to the wire, with Brighton pressing hard to almost get a point. Alvarez and Haaland are the lead targets, with Foden a distant third. With Doku showing promise and form, Grealish is seeing more bench time than most would like. I would spend that 7.3 elsewhere, maybe towards getting Salah. Ansu Fati got his first goal for Brighton, but that wasn't enough to get a point. However, looking at the fixtures coming up, you may want to shop here for some good priced options, from which Kaoru Matoma is the top pick. The Little Master has been fatigued from playing every game, but should be worth a look. Solimarch has a knee injury with an unknown return date, and Purvis Estupinan is probably 2 game weeks away from a full return. Now, looking at Newcastle, they are not a one-season fluke. They are pressing the top hard with 4 wins out of the last 5 games and the leading goal scorers in the league. Wolves welcome them to the Molineux this week, which has proven difficult for some teams, but I would back Newcastle. They have such depth that from week to week it's difficult to guess who will score. This week was Jacob Murphy dominating, but some staples like Kieran Trippier and Anthony Gordon coming back into the team this week are good bets. They have 9 players with more than 30 points already this season, which is amazing. I can't praise Roy Hodgson and his Palace team enough. They are playing a savvy game this season, not pressing a lot on big teams and taking points when possible. This week they face the top dogs in Spurs, and the latest news is that Eze and Olise are out with hamstring injuries. I would move Anderson to the bench on this one if you have him. Now, Notts Forest are in a tough spot. Injuries to Danilo, Hudson-Odoi, Awoniyi, and Origi means that they are lacking in firepower. Ilanga and Woods combined well against Luton, but Liverpool are no Luton. I would avoid for this week. Luton themselves are in for a bumpy ride ahead. They may get a few goals via Lockyer and Morris, but I am not recommending them in the short term. What a great game this was. Chelsea had a chance to make a massive statement, but lost the plot later on to let Arsenal in. Mudryk and Palmer are, in my opinion, better bets than Raheem Sterling, who fires sporadically, while these two are showing some move to form. Tough games ahead though, so would avoid Chelsea's backline in the upcoming weeks, and goals may come, but I feel they are better investments in the short term. Arsenal are determined to see this season through. Saka is the linchpin, and Martinelli and Odegaard are also great routes to points. Trossard and Rice were the heroes last weekend, but Rice doesn't get into attacking positions enough this season, and Trossard is used as a super sub, which makes his points risky. Aside from Newcastle, there are some very winnable and possibly high-scoring games ahead. Jesus has picked up a hamstring niggle, and Nketiah's figures are not amazing, so that Arsenal midfield is where the points will be. So Sheffield United can score, but not regularly, and not looking like they have multiple goals in them as well. No call-outs for them, especially with the 3 weeks ahead at Arsenal, Wolves, and Brighton. Man United are pulling games out of the fire again and again, but no regularity in their scoring. McTominay, Casemiro, Harry Maguire securing the win in Europe, and Dalot last week with that blinder. I'm not favouring them in the Manchester derby, although City are also not 100% lethal at this point. But derby days are different. Lots of changes happening in that squad. The backline is still plagued with injuries, and the new signings Mount, Amrabat, Hoyland are not settled yet. Bruno and Rashi are a shadow of last season. I would see what happens in the derby game before making a further call on this squad. Villa are on a roll. Another big win in Europe on Thursday without suffering any major knocks. Bailey, Tielemans, Watkins, and McGinn scoring yesterday. With a mouth-watering lineup ahead, you have to look at Watkins, Douglas Luiz, Bailey, and Musa Diaby, who has had a few quiet weeks but is bound to shine. Also, Emi Martinez, Matty Cash at the back should be good for points and possible clean sheets. Pau Torres and Lucas Digne are good bargain picks on that end. West Ham finally lost their 17-match unbeaten run in Europe, losing 2-1 yesterday, but Paqueta did score, and in truth, David Moyes didn't play his full team. The main absentee being top scorer Jared Bowen. No injuries to him yet, so it must have been a strategy to rest him. Good fixtures ahead for them. Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, all good value signings if you need them to vary your squad and make a budget for Salah or Son. Spurs go marching on, still top of the league, now their best start ever to a Premier League campaign. Ange Postecoglou is off to a flyer. Son is well on his way to 200 points again this season, playing as the striker after Harry Kane's departure. Maddison is quietly scoring as well with 56 points so far. At the back, Vicario, Romero, Van de Ven, and Pedro Porro are all up around 40 points, which makes that a solid backline that can score goals too. For the upcoming fixtures, I would recommend stacking these up a bit. Only Man City have conceded one less goals than Spurs, and if you're not rocking three players, then you are definitely opening up a gap to be caught. Fulham are mid-tabling in every sense this season. They are 7 points clear of relegation, and Burnley, Bournemouth, and Sheffield are not getting many these days. Diop is still out injured, and that makes it tougher for their top point scorer, Leno, to get those clean sheets. Andreas Pereira and De Cordova-Reid may pop up with some goals, but no strong recommendation from my side. So let's look at the fixture rating for this week coming up, or the next few weeks. Let's look at teams and getting players from Arsenal, Aston Villa, Brighton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs, and West Ham. Really good fixtures ahead. A couple of clashing weeks. Arsenal, Newcastle in game week 11, and Brentford, Chelsea taking on each other. But you could actually get away with a few points by looking at these teams and really going hard on them. And then the ones that I would caution against, Manchester City, again, not really on the best form. One derby game coming up. Then taking on a Chelsea team who are for sure dangerous. Forest for sure with the injuries that they have. And looking at Liverpool, Aston Villa, West Ham is going to be super tough. Sheffield United, Bournemouth, these guys, Luton, they're always going to be on the danger list. But Wolves themselves, who are pretty good but have some tough games coming up, and Chelsea, who just don't have the regularity in their form to take on Brentford, Tottenham, and Manchester City in one go. So just looking at that, that's all the callouts that we have for this game week. Looking forward to a great game week 10. Until then, please remember to like the video, drop us a comment if you want to see something different, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for now.